Gerasia Thompson took her last breath June 16, 2018. But what happened to her? Less than 48 hours, Miss Thompson was out enjoying life with warm blood flowing through her veins. But somehow, that same warm blood ended up on the streets in West Tulsa. In order for us to find out what happened to Gerasia, we must open up this window into the relationship she had with David McKenzie. According to Gerasia's mother, David and Gerasia started dating back January 2018.
They departed their last days, but yeah, at a club.
So, I think
they started dating in January.
Okay.
To just
this year or last year?
This year, 2018.
Okay.
They started dating in January, and of course, she kept it a big secret. We knew it was something to the other party. We never could figure it out. But like I said, I lived in Claremore. I've been living in Claremore till now. And so when she told me about 2 months ago, at that time I was living in Claremore. So we just had conversations over the phone about them. And then I transitioned back, and when I did, about 2 days before the incident, I met him.
Okay.
He brung her. She brung him. She had been wanting me to meet him.
So what was that interaction when you met him?
It was actually good.
Okay.
If I had to tell you the truth, it was not a bad experience.
Did you have any questions for him?
Well, yeah, I asked him how old he was, because of course she told me he was 30, and when I saw him, it was obvious he wasn't 30. Mm-hmm. And so I said, and I asked him, I kind of asked him in a joking manner. I was just like, how did you say you was, And he said, oh, no, I said, Gerasia said you was 30 or something like that. And he said, no, I'm 33. I'm 33, that's what he said, And I spoke with them I said, well, Gerasia has a tendency of, clinging on too fast, too strong, something like that, I said. And he said, oh, don't worry about it, I'll take care of her. And he kind of patted his chest like. Gerasia
appears to have found love in her life with David, with trips to Galveston, Texas, and even talking about blending their families together.
They did talk about future plans. They did talk about moving together and putting the family, her 2 kids and his kids together. They did talk about that.
Gerasia's mom tells me about an incurable liver disease Gerasia had.
Rare liver disease, and of course I can't pronounce some of the restrictions
Just
of
liver
her.
Disease.
Yes, and it's probably the doctor says it 1 in a million, and it happened to be our family. But she struggled with it her whole life. It's not hereditary. I mean, it's not from my side or her dad's side. It just happened, and of course she was on a waiting list to receive a transplant.
So she literally needed another liver.
Yes.
She needed another liver.
Oh yes.
Okay. Did the significant other know that she had a liver issue?
Yes, and he had actually talked about the future plans of him helping her get a liver. Me and her have been traveling back and forth to Oklahoma City to get on the transplant list.
Wow.
So, we had delayed that because this significant other came into her life, and she thought that he was going to be a superhero, that he was going to help her get this liver. The rules in some different states that they say you can use half of somebody's liver. Right. So, he had mentioned saying that.
There was even a time during their relationship, Gerasia was sick, and David came to the hospital.
Maybe that's where I said 2 months ago, maybe a month or two ago. 2 months ago, I'll say, she had to have a blood transfusion, transplant, and so when she did, that's what caused it, the alcohol. So and that's when I realized it was something suspicious, and something just a little off with him, because when she went to the hospital, and it's a big emergency, and I mean, she's really not doing good. And as soon as she had the transplant, I'm supposed to pick her up that next morning at 9:30. She was gone by 8:30, and she just disappeared. We hadn't, and they were together.
One of the major drawbacks of having stage 4 liver failure is that your liver cannot handle any consumption of alcohol.
He would bring a bottle of wine, or, I mean, I know wine isn't that high in alcohol, but alcohol is alcohol. So he would bring a bottle of wine. I mean, when they came to my house, I would already have liquor. I have liquor in my house. I'm 22, so, I have liquor in my house, a few bottles every now and then. So he would drink in front of her, but she would never drink in my house.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but she would try to sneak. She would try to sneak. I seen it actually. She would try to sneak some when she came over.
Okay.
Out of his glass. She would never get her own glass, but I would look back and his glass be gone. I know that he didn't just gulp that down.
Gotcha. But you've never witnessed her or David serving her alcohol. Have you ever witnessed that?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I have, but not at my house.
Okay.
Not at my house, but at that bar that night, I seen them drinking.
Okay.
I mean, I seen them one time. They were meeting me on at somebody's house I was at, and they had a bottle of gin. They had a bottle of gin. They were both drinking that night.
During their relationship, it appears that David understood Gerasia was 20 years old, but somehow they both were able to get in the warehouse bar and grill. Because the bar, just based on our history, the bar is 21 years or older, and we understand that you're older than 21, but did they card you while you was walking in, or did they card anyone? Did you see that?
See, yes, they usually don't. They usually card people, but sometimes they don't, particularly when I'm with Gerasia and David, because the bar and the security guard know Davo, so they usually don't card us.
So you were able to walk in without being carded?
Right.
So do you know if Gerasia was carded at that time? Or?
See, I am not sure. I'm not sure.
But she was definitely there?
Yeah, she was definitely there.
Okay.
She was there before I had got there, but on the particular night, we had went in there previous times, and she didn't get carded.
We also understand that during their relationship, David would get really mad at Gerasia, even in public. Her mom gives an account of what the owner of the warehouse bar and grill witnessed the night of Gerasia's death.
He just said that he was definitely familiar with who I was talking about. He said they're a really nice couple. They come in all the time. Never cause no problems. He said, but that night in particular, he had to come over and separate them. And he said he remembered my daughter, Gerasia, saying, "Oh, we're okay, we're okay." And he said he turned back around and said, "Are you sure?" And she said it again, "Yes, we're okay, we're okay." So he left or walked off, and he said a good 30 minutes or whatever later, something else happened to where he had to put them out. He asked them to leave. That's what he said. And give or take, this was maybe 1:30
in the morning.
Yes.
Okay. And they were regulars there. Is that
yes.
correct? Okay.
Oh yeah.
This account lines up with what David told the police in their report. After speaking with family and friends and also former co-workers, we understand that there was some type of domestic violence done towards Gerasia during their relationship.
We were in my mom's living room, and she tried to stay away from me. And when, I did look at her because I thought something was wrong with her. And her jaw was swollen, and there was a bruise in the middle of that jaw. And I asked her, did someone hit you? And she didn't say anything. And then she said no. But it was apparent that something had happened.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, the thing is, I hate that I did not share that, with her father or grandfather. And I kept it to myself because I was trying to protect her at that time. I didn't want, but maybe would not have come to this if I had.
Thank you. Have you noticed any other busted lips or anything like that? Just
no, I haven't, but someone, had told me about it.
But your account basically was her jaw.
Jaw.
Was it open or swollen?
No, it was swollen.
It was really swollen.
In fact, it was this side.
Was she holding it, or how was she trying to hide it from you?
Well, she was walking sideways. I mean, didn't want me to see something. And for the 2 weeks leading up to her death, she was very upset all the time. Very sad.
The family tells me that Gerasia was often told by David to delete her text messages. However, Gerasia managed to screenshot some important ones and was able to send them to her family for safekeeping. We have come to understand that David McKenzie is a current teacher at KIPP Preparatory in Tulsa. From where?
KIPP Middle School, KIPP Preparatory School.
So he's a school teacher at KIPP?
Yeah.
He was or he is?
He is. When school starts back up, he'll be teaching, you know.
Do you know if he was an actual teacher or was it
He was a teacher. My daughter took him lunch. He was a teacher. My niece that you'll speak with, they've took him lunch together.
The night of June 14th, Gerasia invited her cousin to the Warehouse Bar and Grill. This was the last time she saw her cousin
5-ish
alive.
that Thursday evening. We were over at my grandmother's house just talking about our plans for the night, and I was getting a babysitter.
So is there anything unusual with that? I mean, do you guys normally go or meet out, or is this different this time?
Well, no, it's actually normal. I mean, I never really go out like that. That was occasionally. I mean, my sister asked me to go, so I, thought about going, and we was actually going to change our plans to go swimming, but we didn't. We stuck to the bar. And I got a phone call from Gerasia about 8:30, 8:45 saying, "We're here, where are you?" And then after that, I'm telling her I got to get something to eat really quick, drop off my girls, and then I'll be there. So she kept calling, and, I was getting like, wow, what's going on? Maybe I need to hurry up and get there. So I got there about 10:45, 10:30-ish, something around there. And then when I got there, Gerasia was like, "There go my sister," being herself. She was being loud, of course, like, "There go my sister." She was so happy for me to come. She had a big smile on her face. And, when we got to the bar, we didn't drink immediately. We sat down and talked for a while, and we was just walking through the bar talking like we usually do. We were just chilling, hanging out, And then I tell her, I'm ready for my drink. I'm ready to go get a drink. So I go get the drink. She's sitting there, just chilling. Her and Davo was talking at the time, So I came back, and then, we started dancing and doing the normal. But we never did take pictures. That's the most hurtful thing. I didn't.
So y'all was just having fun, enjoying the moment.
Yes, we were.
At that time, and I have to ask this question, was David drinking at the time?
Yes, he had a shot of Jameson, I believe, in the glass. He had it.
Did Gerasia have any?
See, I didn't see her with any glass in her hand.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think they were sharing a glass because I did see her take a sip of his.
Okay.
I think they were sharing. It was I believe a double shot of Jameson.
So when you saw her take a sip of his, did David say anything?
No, he didn't.
Okay. So it leads up to that night. You guys are dancing around, and you're having fun. So when did you decide to what happened next?
What happened next? We were just chilling, hanging out. We heard Davo say some little smart comments. Me and my boyfriend, really, we heard him say, I'm the man, and just stuff like, proud of himself, like, I'm the man, and, nobody's gonna mess with my girl, or, stuff like that. So we seen,
Did you have a reaction when he said anything?
Yeah,
like that?
I looked like, okay, now, you're acting a little irregular, because I've been around him before, and he has never acted like, loud, like.
Okay. I mean, did you perceive that he was intoxicated, or was he?
Yeah, I could tell because he was talking about the other guy's shoes and throwing trash at the Caucasian people. We seen him doing that. And I'm like, what is this grown man doing? And then they would look at us. They would turn back and look at us. And I'm like, I don't want to be in this. I'm just trying to have fun. Like just throwing at people like a napkin. The Bev naps? They're like.
Just throwing it on the feet or something?
Yeah, like, no, just throwing at his neck. like throwing at the guy's neck.
Any purpose of doing that?
That's what I'm saying. Like, that was just so childish to me. So I'm looking like, wow, I don't want to be a part of this, because they start looking around like, who's doing that? And he started talking about the next to him guy's shoes for no reason. So I'm like, he's a little intoxicated, you know. Maybe he don't need any more drinks.
Okay. So what happened after that?
After that, I seen the bartender, the lady that carries around Jello shots all night. She came up to us a few times and was like, "You want another round?" So I seen him buy 10 Jello shots, and then he tabbed out. So she brought him the card, and then I went up for my second drink, and that was it for the night.
So did you see Gerasia take any Jello shots?
Yes. She took a few Jello shots. I seen her take about 3, and she looked at me, you know, that sister look, like, you know, I'm not supposed to have these. Don't say nothing to me. But, you know, I looked at her like, you know, because we always have that relationship. She always try to hide that liquor part from me. Right. But so whenever she seen that, she was like, "Here, sis, you take one." She was trying to get me to take one, and my boyfriend, of course. But we was like, no, we don't want to take them, because we didn't know if Davo was going to come back saying, "Where's my 10 Jello shots?" And it was only like 5 left.
So just curious, how many Jello shots did David have? Do you know?
I don't know. See, that Jello lady knows him really good, so she comes over a lot.
So you would definitely say that he's a regular?
Yeah, he's a regular, definitely, at that warehouse bar. Because my sister sings karaoke there a lot by herself with him there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
they go there a lot by themselves.
Okay. So what happened after, you know, the Jello shots?
After the Jello shots, it was about, I believe, I don't know what time he tabbed out. I think it was about 1-ish, and I was like, I need to get ready to leave, you know. So I stayed there for a little while. I'm like, "Sis, I'm probably gonna leave," but I stayed there about 1:37. I got up, I looked at the time, it was like 1:37, and I got out of there about 1:40.
Okay.
And that was my last time seeing her going in those double doors, because the bartender or someone had announced, "We need to get out the patio. We need to go in the building because it's closing." It was almost closing time.
So you guys were at the patio?
Yeah, we were outside at the patio sitting down at the chairs.
Gotcha.
And everybody else was in. It was a skinny, narrow bar, so it was kind of hard for us to go inside. So I'm thinking I would have stayed, but it was so hard for us to move around. I didn't want nobody to knock me or, you know, end up thinking I bumped them. So I ended up leaving about 1:37 when she said that, and I seen Gerasia and David go into those double doors. That was my last time seeing her.
According to the police reports, the incident occurred at 7700 Avery Drive in Tulsa. After their deputies closed Avery Drive off from traffic, they canvassed 2 areas with David. The following items were recovered: women's lipstick, pink bottle of baby lotion, Gerasia's cell phone, a can of Copenhagen, glass frames from Gerasia's cell phone, her cell phone case, and also a flask. The report also states that after the incident occurred, David drove from 7100 Avery Drive, West Tulsa, to his house, North Tulsa. We have determined that that particular location is Lewis and Apache. He and his wife, Donisha McKenzie, both drove Gerasia to St. John's Hospital. Based on some news reports, David ran out of gas at around the 14th and Utica area on his way to the hospital, St. John. The report says that a Good Samaritan helped David get gas. We understand that the police are still looking for that Good Samaritan. Based on the drive time, it would take up to at least 18 minutes to drive from 7100 Avery Drive, which is in West Tulsa, to Apache and Lewis, which is in North Tulsa area, depending on your driving route. The drive time from Apache and Lewis, North Tulsa, to St. John can take up to 12 minutes, depending on the route you take. Many have questioned why David just didn't drive directly to one of the nearby area hospitals. He tells us on record that he panicked and trusts his wife, and he didn't know what to do. According to hospital records, Gerasia was received by St. John Medical June 15th at 3:40 in the morning. The report states the patient was brought in to the hospital by a privately owned vehicle. The medical staff pulled Gerasia out of the backseat of the SUV. she was unresponsive and had obvious head trauma. They placed her on all monitors, cut off all her clothing, and was prepping to intubate. The hospital states that Gerasia was unresponsive with multiple facial and soft tissue injuries. She was found to have a right subdural hematoma with mass effect and impeding herniation. I had a chance to speak with the medical profession about Gerasia's condition and her injuries based on her medical report.
All just from her head to toe, really, there was only one injury that was ever identified or treated. And this is this massive frontal facial injury. And by facial, I don't mean the skin necessarily, but the orbits, the bones of the face that in turn were able to impact the brain. That is the only injury that I see identified that was of any significance head to toe. Appears to be a couple of abrasions. We'll get into that, but there was this singular injury that killed.
So let's talk about the
Gerasia.
singular injury, what the doctor said, and kind of break it down for us.
So starts with a right temporal bone fracture, which would be right in this area. And it extends through the mastoid, which means it's gone through the sinus cavity. So that's a full thickness fracture into the structure that's protecting the brain behind words. She has an orbital floor fracture, which all of this is describing the fact that her face is now floating. There is no bony protection for her brain. The bones of her nose, her skull, the front of her skull, the orbit, and her sinuses, that's all been fractured. So that's just a big mess. Behind that is obviously the brain. And they describe immediately upon arrival, first CT or CAT scan that they did within, it looks like about 30 minutes of her arrival. And she has a subdural hemorrhage that in the brain, the actual.
So that means bleeding.
Yeah,
right.
Bleeding. And that has shifted the brain all the way over to the left. So the right side of the brain is now pushing over to the left side. And they also mention that she has this herniation syndrome, which means at the base of her skull where it attaches the brain stem, which is the bottom of the brain that has every life force of breathing to regulation of your heart, that brain is bulging in the process of herniating.
So what causes that?
That caused the huge, massive bleeding in her brain behind this facial injury. That bleeding has caused the pressure that's herniating the brain. The brain has nowhere else to go, and it's going to herniate down through the bottom.
Okay, so the brain, so part of that area is detaching. Is that what's happening?
It's not necessarily detaching; it's blowing out the bottom.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
and that is called. It is probably the most lethal brain injury. That's when you see that herniation syndrome that's incompatible with life. So there's never been, you cannot survive. It'd be like chopping your head off. That's, an injury that's incompatible with life. The herniation of the brain is incompatible with life. The left side, she has this large laceration. It's thick. Looks like a pretty good gash. You can see some of the subcutaneous fat tissue. And I was just surprised that nowhere else on her body. So the narrative is she jumps out of a car. She only lands in about an 8x8 area. She only lands face first into something. Nothing else braces her. Her body doesn't tumble into any other injury. And this whack of a laceration. So that whack of a laceration came from obviously the transfer of energy, and not the transfer of a flat surface. that came from an object that struck her with the force of the energy.
Is that safe to say that whatever object struck her had an indention that created that
Well, I
laceration?
don't know, but I would say it was for certain, it was a consolidated object and not broad. A broad surface or a broad side, this table, anything, if her body had smacked right here, it took something of a consolidated energy velocity that hit her that has caused that laceration, in my opinion. Again, that's just from this, looking at that, I was surprised to see a single laceration. It does appear there's some bruising, but I've seen several guys go off motorcycles, seen several females go out of cars, seen people ejected out of cars, and I've never seen an isolated injury of the gravity, this lethal injury, right to a singular location on the face, with just a couple of accompanying abrasions to go along with it. It just doesn't add up.
I must warn you, the images you're about to see are very graphic in nature. These are the images of Gerasia clinging on to life. With her family by her side, Gerasia Thompson passed away at 7:59 in the morning, June 16th, 2018.
More and more hurt that I know that I couldn't help her at the time that we were together all the time. And I would just tell her, sis, come live with me. Come live with me. I would tell her all the time. She was like, sis, I know you want what's best for me, but I gotta live my life. That's what she always said. She would always do her own thing, and I'd be always saying, Ray, you hard-headed. You just need to listen to me.
In your opinion, now, based on all that you know, your knowledge and your time that you spent with David and Gerasia, and you've witnessed looking at your sister laying in the bed, and you saw her scars, in your words, what do you think happened?
See, I think that she got beat. And Davo got scared when he seen that she got beat, or he beat her, and he got scared of what the reaction came out to be. Because my sister is a bleeder, and she bruised easily. I'm not for sure what the doctor term for that is, but they had diagnosed her with that, of her skin being bruised easily. So I feel like he got scared when he seen what had happened to her, the ending results.
Based on all of this evidence, the family believes that David McKenzie should be arrested immediately.
Again, with all sincerity, I just, if the public don't do anything, just remember that it could be your daughter.
Absolutely.
Just remember, and it's not like we have someone here. Eventually, he justice will come, and that's what keeps me strong and moving. I know that eventually he will, but each and every day, I feel like we're losing the trail. I feel like it's something else that needs to be done today, right now. Answer somebody, step up, do something, because I don't understand why the sheriff department. I understand, but I'm like, it's not moving fast enough because. My Lord, some kind of charges. I just don't understand, why he's still free to move around, do whatever he's doing. He's not even, he haven't even been held.
When will justice come for Gerasia and her family? The very life was taken from this gifted soul. Will David be charged with the crime? Was there any interaction with David's wife, Donisha, to Gerasia? We will tackle these questions in part 3 of this series.
Let us live
Thank you
forever. We don't have the power, but we never say never. I'm sitting in a sad pit. Life is a short trip, and the music is full of sad men. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really want to live forever and ever young? forever.